Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're exploring a story that takes literally everything you thought you knew about the rugged American frontier and just completely turns it on its head. We're looking at John Coley's fascinating book, The Western Weird. Imagine, if you will, the hilariously dusty, harsh life of 19th century pioneers colliding head-on with ancient, world-shattering magic and mythological gods. It is a bizarre, incredible premise, and I am absolutely thrilled to break it down for you today. To help you get a real grip on this fantastic story, we're going to count down the top 5 things you absolutely need to know. The unique genre mashup, the ultimate underdog protagonist, classic myths reimagined, the power of family, and finally, an epic elemental climax. All right, let's jump right into number 1, a unique genre mashup, where 19th century Arizona meets ancient folklore. Okay, let's dive into this. Picture this. You're out in the rim country of Arizona, right? It's a place known for ponderosa pines, really tough settlers, and just totally unforgiving landscapes. But there is a stark juxtaposition here. On one hand, you've got the incredibly grounded reality of pioneer life, darning socks, tending the family mule, figuring out the price of dry goods. But right next to that, existing in the exact same world, we're dealing with mind-controlling flute music, people manipulating water with their minds, and actual giants who can survive a direct smoking lightning strike without a single scratch. It's this constant crazy friction between the gritty reality of surviving the frontier and surviving ancient magic that makes the whole shebang so gripping. I absolutely love this quote from Edward, who's the late patriarch of our main family, right at the start of chapter 1. When meeting strangers, it is of utmost importance to have 2 things, a winning smile and a shotgun. It just perfectly captures that gritty, highly practical, watch-your-back attitude you'd need to survive in rim country. And that's right before the story drops in supernatural threats that, well, a simple shotgun might not actually be able to stop. Moving on to number 2, the ultimate underdog protagonist. Let me introduce you to 14-year-old Simoria. So Simoria is this deeply dutiful girl who was found abandoned in the mud as a baby by an Apache man named Eknoth, and then she was adopted by a loving pioneer family. But she's always felt like a total outsider. I mean, imagine being a pioneer working the dusty fields all day, but dirt and water simply roll right off your skin, leaving you completely clean and bone dry. No way, right? Add to that her enhanced eyesight, incredible hearing, and get this, the ability to physically feel the air pressure drop when danger is near. For her entire life, she literally just thought she had some bizarre medical condition. But the only real clue she has to her true past is this tiny leather bracelet she was found with. For years, her adoptive parents, Edward and Shannon, just assumed the markings on it were Roman numerals, 556, or, maybe a strange set of initials. And this brilliantly illustrates the hidden depth of this story. Actually, scratch that. Those markings aren't numbers at all. When you turn the bracelet upside down, it spells VVN. Vivian. Yep, as she finds out later, she is the literal daughter of Vivian, the mythological lady of the lake. So her lifelong struggle with feeling weird isn't a disease. It's her legendary, supernatural lineage finally waking up inside her. Talk about a game changer. Which brings us to number 3. Classic myths reimagined, specifically the Prolifics and the Pied Piper. To truly appreciate what Simoria is up against here, we've got to define her enemies. So, a weird, like Simoria, originally referred to something truly supernatural and deeply connected to elemental magic. But her enemies? They're known as Prolifics. These are ancient, long-living humans carrying old, mythological blood that grants them incredibly specialized abilities. They aren't exactly gods, but man, they are incredibly powerful. The story takes characters you probably thought you knew from old myths and drops them right into the dusty Old West. We've got Bailey, who is actually the ancient storm god Baal or Zeus, just throwing literal thunderbolts across the Arizona sky. We have Tom, who turns out to be an aging, fading giant, known in legend as Tom Thumb. And then we have our main villain, Hamblin, the original Pied Piper. Now, Hamblin is a terrifying, nearly 1,000-year-old grifter, and he pulls off this horrific 4-step heist on Simoria's town. First, he arrives and plays this enrapturing, beautiful flute music that literally paralyzes the adults with joy. Then, he steals all their money. Next, he maliciously changes the tune to summon an army of massive, unnatural rats and uses them to kidnap over 100 children from the village. It is a chilling Western heist, but pulled off entirely with dark magic. And here is a deliciously sinister little detail about Hamblin. He wears this ragged coat covered in patches. Well, the word pied originally meant patched. Every single patch on his coat is a dark trophy from a victory he's claimed over his nearly 1,000 years of life. So yeah, he is an incredibly arrogant, deeply dangerous foe. Let's look at number 4, the power of family, the emotional anchor of the story.
Because, honestly, despite all the mythological chaos running wild, the true emotional core of this explainer is about chosen family. Edward's philosophy, remember children, family is everything, is the absolute bedrock of Samoria's world. These are the exact values she was raised with, and it's what ultimately gives her the courage to face down an ancient mythological monster.
Her adopted pioneer family completely accepts her weirdness. Her mom, Shan, provides this grounding wisdom and critical medical care when the town gets attacked. Her little brother, Jack, offers this innocent, fierce loyalty. But what's really touching is her teenage brother, Abe. Right before she sneaks off to fight Hamblin, Abe catches her. But instead of trying to stop her, he observantly notes that she's virtually indestructible. He actually arms her, handing over their late father's hunting knife and shotgun, and tells her that while livestock and crops can be replaced, she cannot. And I really want to emphasize this beautiful sentiment from Shan to Samoria. Where you come from is not who you are, and who you are is someone wonderful. For anyone who has ever felt like an outsider looking in, this really matters. Her family's love is the true armor she wears when she climbs up that rim to save the stolen children. And that brings us to number 5, the epic elemental magic climax, the final showdown at the lake. So we arrive at this massive confrontation atop the rim. Let me ask you, how do you fight a mythological mind controller who has lived for a millennium? I mean, especially when you are just a 14-year-old girl armed with an old shotgun. Well, things go south incredibly fast. Samoria tracks Hamblin to the edge of the lake as he's forcing all those enthralled children toward the cliff. She shoots him point blank with the shotgun, but because he's an ancient prolific, it barely even slows him down. Furious, Hamblin snatches the gun, shatters it against her face, and knocks her directly into the deep, dark, freezing water of the lake to drown. Now, what's really interesting about this moment is that Hamblin made a massive, fatal mistake. He threw the daughter of the Lady of the Lake into the literally one element she can completely control. Samoria hits the bottom and realizes, wait, she can breathe. Her weird senses fully ignite. She rises up, walking effortlessly on the surface of the water, and summons these massive, heavy tendrils of water that pluck Hamblin right off the shore, trapping him helplessly inside a floating sphere of the lake. It's an incredible sequence. And the poetic justice of this climax? It is just brilliant. Hamblin had used that army of rats to terrorize the town, right? But because those rats had drowned in the lake, they are now under Samoria's elemental control. She commands his own drowned, undead rat army to swarm him. They disarm him, stealing his ancient magical flute, which Samoria then hurls into the absolute deepest part of the lake. She defeats a 1,000-year-old threat without firing another shot. Afterwards, Samoria even uses her vast new water powers to respectfully entomb the fallen giant, Tom Thumb, inside his cave before she heads back home to her pioneer life. But it leaves us with this really provocative final question. Will Samoria's loving pioneer family be enough to keep her anchored as she steps fully into her massive magical destiny as the Western Weird? To find out what happens next in this incredible clash of folklore and frontier, you're simply going to have to read the book. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, keep exploring the weird.